Let's talk about a very important story that has not been discussed in enough detail, I think, since the last 2 months or so. So on June 7th, the government of India unveiled a new income tax portal. This e-filing portal was meant to make refunds much easier for taxpayers. In 2019, in fact, Infosys was contracted with the job of reducing the refund time and the whole process time from 64 days to just 1 day. And Infosys is no newbie when it comes to large government projects. GSTN was one of the other big projects that was given to them to develop that software backbone. Now, since the launch of this portal in June, there has been glitch after glitch, and a very vocal community of taxpayers, tax experts who have been saying that the old system was better. This new system just doesn't seem to work. From not getting OTPs on time, or e-verification, or linking up with previous data, all of this has been a big point of contention, to the extent that Infosys top bosses have been summoned by the finance ministry twice and now been given a September 15th deadline. So in just about a week from now. The question is, what went wrong? What was the issue here, and can it be fixed by September 30th? It also becomes a strange story as I'm telling you all of this, because in the middle about last week, there was a magazine which was seen close to the RSS, which had an opinion piece saying Infosys is doing this on purpose and targeted the company. The RSS came out and said, we have nothing to do, this magazine is not our mouthpiece, etc. But it's taken on now a political color as well. So what really is this story, and what are the angles of this story? We're trying to find this out without assigning any blame. We still don't know what's happening, and we all hope this gets eased up. But was this a case of incorrect or ever-changing briefs? Was this a case of not enough attention being put into how this was going to roll out? Is it difficult to deal with the government for such a big kind of project? To talk about all of this from every angle and aspect, I have with me today Mr. T.P. Ostwal, tax expert, Sourabh Baser, partner at BGJC and Associates, and Prabal Basu Roy, management advisor, who's joining us on the show. Welcome to all of you, and thank you for speaking with us today. Sourabh, let me just begin by getting the practitioner's point of view. How difficult have these last couple of months been ever since the new system was unveiled?
So, good evening, Tamanna. Obviously, we are facing multiple issues since this rollout in the first week of June. We are facing challenges like verification related issues. People are not able to file rectification applications. Even errors have been noticed in the reports generated from the portal. There is delay in receiving OTPs and associating digital signatures. In addition to this, offshore remittances are getting delayed due to non-availability of certain mandatory forms. So these are the practical challenges which we are facing, although the deadline has been extended till 30th of September. So, I mean, we are just looking forward, and I hope things get sorted by 15th of September. That's the deadline which has been given to Infosys.
So, just to follow up there, Sourabh, what do you make of the way the entire situation has been handled? Usually the company contracted to roll it out is not even in the limelight. Perhaps people who are using it on an everyday basis may not even know that which is the tech company or the software company which has come to actually implement it. In this case, it's become all about Infosys. It's become all about why that portal has not been working, and very vocal complaints. How do you look at this as a stakeholder in the industry?
So we have faced similar challenges in past when it came to MCA portal rollout or even GST portal. However, this has, this time the number of people getting impacted is huge, because there are more than 7 crore return filers. So no doubt there are gaps in the new portal, and ideally these gaps should have been addressed before the rollout by Infosys and even by the tax authorities before giving final clearance for a full-fledged launch. So, I mean,
It's a strange situation. TP Ostwal, how do you look at it? Because in the age of social media, there's a glare on everything. On June 7th, when the portal rolled out, many people complained it wasn't working well and tagged the finance minister. The finance minister, in turn, tagged Nandan Nilekani and said that I hope, Infosys will fix this. He replied saying, we're working on it. It should be smoothed out in a week. That's not happening. So all of this is very much in the public eye. Do you think this helps the process or hinders the process?
You see, if you look at the problem, first of all, it was working very smooth. Some other company was managing this. The re-tendering was done because the time period of tendering is over. So therefore, they again got into, and therefore everybody knew that lowest quotation given will be acceptable to the government. So the Infosys quoted lower quotation than the existing service provider. And they took the contract, and they have been miserable failure in GST as well as MCA portal. That was a problem. And now they have created a third problem. But honestly, the government should have learned a lesson from the old experiences like MCA and GST. GST was their own creation. MCA was taken from another company. And this is also taken from other company by bidding lower price. Now, government ought to have, first of all, tested this system. They should have not discontinued the old system. They should have continued the old system. Filing should have been on the system, and then they should have switched over. Unfortunately, government, we are all guinea pig. The people want to test all the new systems on the public without even asking the creator of the system to test it themselves. So this is a major problem. If you have got a manual system of accounting and you are switching over to the SAP accounting, or tally accounting, at least keep for some time both the systems, and then so that you don't have a problem. Once everything is smoothened, then you switch over. But unfortunately, government does not want to learn the experience. And what happens this time particularly, I'll tell you the another non-cooperation is happening. As we understand from the department, that people from the department also not cooperating with Infosys, because I believe this faceless assessment concept has come up. And this faceless assessment concept is really making the tax officers out of their job. Their all other revenues have gone up. The rent-seeking business has gone down. And therefore, they are now trying to create as many difficulties as possible, in the sense that they are not giving the adequate information to the system developer, which is creating a more.
So I don't know, this is the thing. Who do you blame? Who do you blame, and where does the blame actually lie? See, the fact is that crores of taxpayers are getting stuck because of a system which is right now glitchy. So is it the fault of the customer, in this case the government of India? Is it the fault of those implementing this? TP Ostwal is blaming the bureaucrats. Is it the fault of the vendor, which was Infosys? Prabal, where do you weigh in on how this entire incident has unfolded?
Well, Tamanna, obviously it's a little complex, but I'll try and demystify it as to the best of my ability. See, first and foremost, equating incompetence with motives and extremist motives like anti-national, etc., is unpardonable and not worth commenting on, when icons like Nandan and Infosys are concerned. So that is to set this RSS linked article or whatever out of the picture. Having said that, there are some very serious and very fundamental issues with the portal, fundamental issues. And some of them I think Sourav mentioned. Essentially, it is to do with login, it's to do with e-filing, it's to do with services, it is to do with pending actions, responding to notices, squaring up of demands, etc. These are fundamental aspects of a taxpayer's life, right? And there is no reason why such fundamental things should go wrong. So my assessment essentially is that there is criticism is valid, but on whom? That is the question to answer here. For Infosys, surely on execution delays. Some of the glitches, like I said, are so fundamental that only Infosys is to blame for his project management skills, like this logins, notifications of notices, etc., basic things. But on the government side, I mean, I have no idea whether the specs were totally scoped out or not in the first place. Were the time schedules unrealistic, like was the case in GST? This government is known for doing that, placing unrealistic deadlines and moving ahead with it. We have seen it in many, many cases in the past. So were they unrealistic? Were there scope changes in between? We don't know that either. And with key changes, and most importantly, with key changes in the CBDT, did this have an impact due to the ownership of the project at the CBDT level itself? So there are many unanswered questions like this. And as you would appreciate in any technology project, and we are from the IT industry, right? Any technology project is a handshake with a two-way continuous communication. When you do a project handover of this nature, there are frequent points of interaction. Now, I don't know if the government of India is responsive or not. Like Mr. Ostwal said, maybe that is true. I have no idea, but that is a very, very basic point. So is there a project manager in the government of India who is accountable, as is normally the case, so that the incentives are aligned? We don't know who that man is. We really don't know. The second unanswered question is Infosys is the global leader in managing digital transformations, especially in the BFSI, and their competency is legendary in this area. Now, strictly, this is not BFSI, but the domain skills are similar. So how can they go wrong? So wrong. I mean, it's something which I have not been able to understand. And from the government of India's perspective, what is most surprising is the earlier portal was flawless. And remember, that transition was from a totally manual system, right? And it was infinitely harder. The ITD officer, who's now a CCIT, managed it brilliantly. So I can't imagine this to be a simple case of, Infosys not delivering and stuff like that. I just can't believe it. It's much more complex than that. And why government of India?
I'm sure. And what the mind boggles to think.
Yes.
Yeah, the mind boggles to think that it would come down to implementation, if that's the case, or who is communicating from the government side, and whether those 2-3 officers are able to do that, because this is government of India that you're talking about at the end of the day. TP Ostwal, if you just had to look at the, say, digital track record, I'm taking this to TP Ostwal now. So, for example, the COVID portal. Okay, to get everyone vaccinated. When it first came out, the first couple of days was glitchy. People were, saying what's going on. Anyone and everyone will have to admit that it is handling data on a massive scale. I mean, this is handling data of all Indian adults. It's unimaginable. Also a project which has been started by the government of India in a smaller amount of time. So can we really say that this is a lack of capability or communication from one section within government?
No, Tamanna, I would not say that it's a lack of, on the part of Infosys, they are competent in my opinion. That is not a blame to be made to the Infosys. But what the Prabal Saab has said is right. The ownership in the government is very, very important. At least in the case of Atmanirbhar project, that the project which you are talking of, COVID-19, is handled by the Prime Minister's office and is very, very swiftly handled. Whatever glitches were there, they have been corrected very quickly. There were cases which were found that there are some duplicate certificates were issued and some vaccination done and not done, and the certificate got it. But they were very, very rare in such a massive public data which is collected all over India. Now, these glitches are nothing as compared to what we are talking about. The income tax was already smoothly working. It was the earlier company was handling this process, as rightly said by my predecessor. This was absolutely from manual to the computerization was done correctly, and it was going on. What was the need? If the difference in the lowest bid price is small, government should not change. In fact, government should learn a lesson out of this, and they should continue the same service provider. And in case if you want to try some other service provider, please allow it. Doesn't matter. Run it parallelly. 6 months time you give it to them and test the data. Same day data can be tested, and then you switch over. Today the problems are significant. So many reassessment notices have been issued, which are not genuine. So many, we are trying to file papers not going through. Registration of charitable trusts are not going through. And the government on one hand is extending the dates for filing for all other cases, but filing of return which is due on 30th September, why you are taking public for granted? You are not extending the time. We already paid the taxes before 30th July. So why the date of filing return should not be announced that in advance? It will be now filed up to 31st December. Please do that. Help the nation so that at least the blame game will not happen.
Saurabh, do you agree with that demand? Do you think that there should be an extension of the deadline from September 30th to December 31st as TP Ostwal is asking for?
Definitely. I think extension is inevitable now. Even if everything is fine after 15th, it is not possible for the taxpayers and even for the consultants to, ensure filing of tax returns in such a short window. So I think the authorities will take a suitable call after 15th.
No, but the TDS, form TDS from the employers are also not getting generated. AS26 also is not getting generated. How do you get the information for filing the tax return? These are the problems.
No, it's a big mess, no doubt. I think one thing that everyone can agree on is the system as it is not working. It needs to be fixed. Now, on the one hand, you have a world-class company, India's pride. And anyone who suggests otherwise is really, they don't know what they're talking about, who has been given the task to manage this. Inexplicable why there's so many glitches. Perhaps there should be more transparency. On the other hand, you have a government which has managed to roll out another very big project and a digital project during the course of COVID-19. So somewhere the two have to meet, and perhaps all the acrimony and the blame game need not be so public when it comes to such big names. On that note, I want to thank all of you for joining us on this discussion. We'll be tracking that story very carefully, especially as the 15th September deadline looms.